Hey guys, it's me, Lil Ninja, back with another video, and today we're doing What If Deku Had Venom? And this will be one of another of a new great series that, like the series from yesterday. And I hope you like that video. And if you haven't seen the one from yesterday, you can go check that out because it's a pretty good video. And it's a Naruto what if, something that I've been doing a lot. But I'm back to My Hero what ifs. And I hope you like this great My Hero what if. And eventually I'll start doing other what ifs as well, like fairy tale what ifs. Basically just in a different setting for different characters and all of that. So, without further ado, let's get into one of the greatest what ifs that I will probably ever make. Without further ado, hit the intro. It's Little Ninja time. We start off with an interjected Izuku Midoriya finding his way through a dark night in an alley. Trying to find his way home, he would be wandering, thinking back to the day before. He was at school, and he was bullied yet again by Bakugo Katsuki, waiting for himself to awaken a quirk. Possibly, maybe this would be all a dream and quirks would have not exist, and he would have a normal life. But Izuku, staying awake, would eventually realize that nope, it's not a dream. Izuku would still be wandering around, trying to find a way that to any place. He doesn't feel like he wants to go back home. He doesn't feel like he wants to meet anyone that he has met before. He wants to completely be erased from this planet. He starts to hear a rustling inside of the trash, which eventually the trash can lid bursts open, making Izuku look at the trash can while him trying to get away as fast as he can. But fear eventually overcomes him and he's stuck staring at the trash can. Of course, something crawls out of the trash can, it being a slimy black goo that would start to make its way towards Izuku. Izuku backing up slowly, starting to run, with the symbiotes starting to chase after Izuku. Izuku heading a dead corner, smashing his face into the wall, and would get caught by this black goo. The black goo would then lunge onto Izuku and then go inside of him. With the black goo seemingly disappearing, Izuku would look around himself, trying to figure out what just happened, him not knowing a thing that just happened. Izuku would begin to look around himself and would decide that he should go back home. But then something would say no, and Izuku would clean out his ears, thinking is someone behind him, and he would look behind and nobody would be there. Izuku would keep walking as the voice would get louder, no. And Izuku would start to get frightened, trying to figure out that somebody has an invisible quirk and is just spying on them for no apparent reason. Izuku would keep walking forward, and every single time the voice would get louder, saying no. He does not want to go back to this home. Izuku would eventually figure out that this is inside of his head and would try to speak into this thing. Izuku would say, hello, and of course the symbiote would respond, saying that he does not want to go back to this home. This world is basically annoying. Izuku, not knowing what this is, he would ask for its name, and of course the symbiote would respond with venom. Venom being annoyed that this kid, for how smart he is kind of slow. So Izuku would keep walking forward, stating that he wasn't going to go home if this thing doesn't want to. Actually trying to comprehend what this symbiote is. Venom would explain that he is from a whole entire different universe where powers do exist, but they aren't called quirks. And there are superheroes, but not everybody has a superpower. Izuku would be confused. A world like that where he could just be a citizen and not be pestered about it? Izuku would begin to think if there's a world like that, he should probably go to that one. Venom would say no, he has no way of getting back there. And his host died along the way. Izuku would be frightened, saying, "Host? Does that mean?" And Venom would mentally nod his head, saying, "Yes, you are my second host. Hopefully you don't die on me at like the first." Of course, the first one died because of the transportation, so you possibly won't die. Plus, I can't really merge with anyone from this universe that has a quirk. You're the first person that I met that didn't. Izuku would frown, thinking that this thing just chose him because he didn't have a quirk, meaning he wasn't really special at all. Izuku would begin to think maybe he could get into UA with this power. Venom would state that he wants a whole new persona, and Izuku would state fine, but that would mean he needs a job. Izuku would start looking around, but would ultimately decide to go back home despite Venom's wishes. With this, Izuku would walk into a home with blood everywhere. Izuku would not know what had happened. Izuku would just be looking around, trying to find clues as to what had happened, and would eventually find his mother on the wall. His mother saying that they're coming. They're looking for this symbiote. And Izuku would know immediately what his mother is talking about. Izuku knowing that he has what these people are looking for. He doesn't know who these people are, but he knows that he has what they want. Izuku would state that he will protect her from these people. Inko saying, no, it's too late for her. Take the extra money inside of the closet and start a new life. And try not to get into any trouble, Izuku. Izuku would just start breaking down, crying, saying that he doesn't want to lose her. Inko would eventually tell Izuku to go, take everything from that he needs, and run away from this house. They might come back. Izuku would nod his head, and eventually Inko would black out. Izuku would do what his mother told him to with her last words. Izuku starting to pack up, trying to find things that he could use to basically stay alive. Izuku would find hair dye, and would also find some old toys that could be used as weapons, such as bats, a lightsaber, and other things that could be used as weapons. Of course, he would also find a fake sword. Venom looking at all this stuff, Venom would eventually absorb it, making each weapon into a better weapon. The bat being transformed into a symbiotic hammer, with the sword being transformed into a symbiotic blade, and a couple other weapons with the toy, while some other toys were were looked at to create new other weapons, such as projectiles and hand-to-hand combat, trying to figure out a way to basically survive better than he ever would alone. Izuku would dye his hair and leave. and would eventually change his name. Wait a minute, I gotta figure out a name. I did not think this one through. Izuku would not choose a new name. Instead he would just not use his last name. Izuku would dye his hair and would leave his house, running and eventually getting covered inside of venom. With this, Venom would fully transform and would start hopping through rooftops, trying to get as far away from the house as possible. Landing on one building, Izuku would start talking to Venom, asking who are the people that are looking for him. Venom would state that he was inside of a facility where he was trying to escape from. He doesn't like being trapped. The first time he was trapped, it wasn't really that good. They did experiments on his kind, and he didn't like those experiments. That's why he found his other symbiotic relationship, also known as Eddie Brock. Izuku would begin to think, Eddie Brock doesn't ring a bell. Then Izuku would remember that this thing is from a different universe. So immediately after Eddie died, he was basically trapped in a container inside of a lab and was tested on. And this would mean that there are still more people that want him to basically do more tests on him. Izuku would realize that he can't do his dream of becoming a hero, but he can become sort of an anti-hero, protecting Venom while actually doing some good in the process. Venom would say this would not be a good idea since they would just get attention to themselves, although Venom does need to eat, and he would explain that he eats humans. And Izuku would not like this, stating that they can't eat humans. Izuku would just try to figure out a different way, maybe chickens. Venom would state that they have much smaller brains than humans, and Izuku would have no other way around this. Izuku would have to start getting comfortable with Venom eating bad guys. Izuku would explain that, would tell Venom fine, but he can only eat bad guys. Only bad people. Venom would nod his head, stating that this was the rule that Eddie and him established first anyways. Izuku would jump down and transform into his Venom state, and would start running around and basically getting looked at by everyone, until eventually a hero popped up, and Izuku would shake his head, stating that no, he's not a villain, and the hero would not trust Izuku, and the hero would start to try and punch Izuku, with Izuku just dodging, and Venom getting a lot annoyed from this. Venom would just stop the fight by catching the hero's arm and throwing him into the side of a building, and then jumping up into the air. With this, Izuku would look around, trying to find a way to not get spotted, and then he would realize he's not the suit. He can transform into his regular form. Izuku would jump down and would transform into his regular state, and would be looking around for some snack. Something that can ease Venom for now, so that they don't have to keep going looking for bad guys. Izuku would look at chocolate bars, and Venom would scream, "Those, get me those!" And Izuku would end up buying the whole box. Then he would proceed to ask for a job here, and the lady would actually like a help around this place, since it really isn't that big of a shop. It's more of a small shop, basically like a small gas station, but no gas station. Izuku would spend his weekends working here, getting getting at least $10 a day. I mean, no, I say getting $10 a day. Really, he doesn't really need more than 10 since he doesn't really live anywhere and he's a vigilante basically. Izuku would eventually spot some villains, it being about a week later from when he got Venom, and Venom was big and he was trying to control himself not to Izuku would jump down and would immediately stop the villain, it being just a little bug, and would eventually get this villain's head eaten by Venom. Izuku would have transformed back into his thinking that he really needs to get used to that. And Izuku would look at the girl that was being threatened by the villain, and he just realized he put his mask off. This girl would be Uraraka, and Uraraka would be trying to get back, trying to get away from the villain, and Izuku would be saying, it's okay, I only eat villains. I don't eat people that are good. And this would just creep Uraraka out even more, making Izuku seem more of a villain. And Izuku would transform back into his regular state and saying that she has to keep this a secret, and Uraraka would start calling 911. And then Izuku would snatch the phone and then crush it. Izuku doing this, knowing that he might have to leave, and would start talking to Uraraka about how he's not really a bad guy and not a good guy, and this would be Izuku would start explaining to Uraraka that he is really nice, I guess. Izuku would basically think that he could probably stay on the down. Venom would realize that some of the bad guys they've been eating had quirks, and this would allow Izuku to use their quirks. Also, with this, Izuku would be able to use each bad guy's quirk, and I'm stating some have fire quirks and ice quirks, with Venom just telling this to Izuku. Izuku stating that this, you could have told him this at any time, and this is the time that he chooses. Izuku pays attention to Uraraka, but she's already gone, and Izuku has to leave as well. Izuku jumping up into the air and transforming into Venom, and would start jumping from roof to roof, trying to find Uraraka, and would eventually find her, jumping down, grabbing her, and then jumping back on the building. Izuku would say, calm down, it's okay, and Uraraka would try and proceed to float herself and jump away from the villain until Izuku would have grabbed her again, trying to get Uraraka to actually calm down. Eventually, Uraraka, having no other choice, would calm down and actually relax around Izuku. With this, Izuku would finally begin to explain how he met Venom, and how he has decided to go and do the interview exams. Venom would have finally stated that he can live off of different things. He doesn't need to live off of humans. Izuku thinking they did all this for nothing. Venom stating that this is only because of how much quirks they have consumed, stating that the quirks have evolved him to the point where his digestive system is more to the sort of a human with resort to eating humans. Kazuki is still not understanding it, just glad that he doesn't have to eat anybody anymore, because that basically made him disgusted and would eat anybody. With this, Kazuki would look at Yue and would think, I'm finally gonna have my dream. And with this, Uraraka would ask Izuku's name. Izuku would say, Izuku. Just Izuku. Uraraka would be confused, thinking that he has to have Izuku says he ditched his last name after his mom died because of him. He thinks that he doesn't deserve that last name. Basically, Raka does not agree with this, and she would say that it doesn't matter, just be yourself. And this is where I'm leaving the video off. I hope you liked the video, and I hope you will watch the video, the what if before this what if, and watch my other videos from basically decades ago. Without further ado, Little Ninja out.